Brahim Habaim, welcome, my friends. So good to be with you again on this most sacred of days. Gathering once again, I know, virtually, being in a place we did not expect to be, but knowing that this is how it has to be for now. And in doing so, we are uplifting our community. So while I miss you being here in the sanctuary all on this Kol Nidre Eve, I know that we are all being safe, uplifting one another, supporting one another, and doing what we can. So, but yet, as I've mentioned before, as we've mentioned all throughout this time, community transcends spaces, buildings. We have deepened our community connections over the course of this pandemic. And once again, as we gather here tonight for Kol Nidre, Erev Yom Kippur, we have another beautiful opportunity to deepen those connections, to demonstrate what it truly means to be a part of our community. So welcome, my friends, to this day. So as we enter into Kol Nidre, to Erev Yom Kippur this evening, as the light is fading in the sky, just a few notes to take note of as we gather here on Zoom, and also too, so you know that, especially the folks on Zoom, we are also streaming to Facebook, though the only screen that is streaming, live streaming to the internet is just the shot of the bima. So you don't have to worry about that. You're more than welcome to turn off your cameras if you wish, but just know that having your camera on will not indicate any live streaming, and just gives an opportunity to be with one another. The Machzor is available online. It went out into the, it is on our website, but also we'll put it into the chat on Zoom. So you have a copy of our Machzor. And just as a note, a technical note, when we call pages throughout the service tonight and into tomorrow, the pages correspond with the pages of the book, not the pages of the PDF. So just to alleviate that confusion, I know it could be a little confusing, just note we're calling the pages in the book. And once again, I invite you, this is maybe the only time I will invite you to do this, is to just continue to talk all throughout services. That this is a great opportunity to, again, to build those connections, to send messages in the chat, reflections, well wishes, whatever you want, commentaries on the sermon or whatever, you know, just you could put in whatever you want into the chat. Keep those conversations going. Because remember, this time, and really all of Yom Kippur, is for you. It's a holy time for you to be together in community, but also to do the work that you need to do. If you need to put aside the Machzor, wonderful. If you need to click off the screen and just be with yourself, or go outside or do something else, that's beautiful. If you need to just, I don't know, whatever you need to do, this is your time to do it. So welcome. What a blessing to be here all together. And so we'll begin tonight by creating light. We know the light fades outside. Kol Nidre begins really before sundown itself. And so we will light lights. If you have candles where you are, I'll invite you to join me in the candle lighting. This is one of the beautiful things we've been able to develop over the course of the pandemic, just being able to see each other and visit each other, lighting candles in each other's homes. So if you are in the Machzor, the blessing for lighting of the candles is on page 688. As on Yom Kippur, we will hold a Yizkor service, a time for memorial. We also light a memorial candle that will burn through the day in remembrance of all of our loved ones. Technical difficulties here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel yom hakippurim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, the sovereign of all space and time, who has made us holy with your mitzvot and commanded us to kindle the light of this day of atonement. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei avotenu v'imotenu shi'ari'enu nerot ele et darchei hatshuva b'yom Shabbat Shabbaton kodshacha. The Oram nir'eh or v'nomar amen. May it be your will, eternal one, our God and God our ancestors, that these candles light up the pathway of return, of teshuvah, on this, your holy Shabbat Shabbaton, a Sabbath of complete cessation. And by their light, may your light be seen. And we say, Amen. It is customary to don the talit, the prayer shawl, the only time during the course of the year that we put on a talit for an evening service. If it is your custom to do so and you haven't done so already, I would invite you to put on the talit. The prayer, the blessing for putting on the talit is on page 690. Source of forgiveness, who knows our hearts, revealer of depths, speaker of justice, we have lost our way. Guide us home to ourselves with gentleness. Majestic with ancient wonders, comforting presence, remembering the covenant with our ancestors, weighing our insides, we have forgotten who we are. Help us remember our goodness. Goodness flowing to all creations, knower of all that is hidden, capturing our careless arrows, clothed in righteousness, we have missed the mark. Let us draw from the well of your compassion. Abundant generosity, filling us with awe beyond awe, forgiving everything, answering our call. We have missed the mark. Let us draw from the well of your compassion. Artisan of resilience, visionary of the future, calling upon the generations, guiding us in the wilderness, hearing our prayers, aligning us in integrity. We have missed the mark. Let us draw from the well of your compassion. I invite you to rise as able in body or spirit as we open up the ark here in the sanctuary and by extension in your home for the Kol Nidre. I invite Allison Brooks, our president, to come forward to hold one of the scrolls for us. Unless you want to hold all three. Yeah. Page 692.
Vishiva Shalmala, Uvishiva Shalmata, Al Data Makom, Vel Data Kael, Anu Matirim Litpalel, Im Ha'avayani.
by the authority of all who congregate above, and by all who congregate on earth, and with permission of the omnipresent one and by consent of this assembly, we accept into our midst whoever seeks to pray. Whether righteous or unrighteous, all shall pray as one community.
Beshiva shel mahala, ubeshiva shel mahata, al da'at hamakom, v'al da'at hakahal, anu matirin lahitpalel im havaryanim. Kol Nidre Service, Ushvuei, V'charamei, V'konamei, V'kinusei, V'chinuyei, Tindarna, Udashtabana, Udacharimna, Udahasarna, al nafshatana, miyom kippurim shavar, ad yom kippurim ze, haba aleinu, letova, Kulhon acharad navahon, Kulhon yachon sharon, shavikin, shavitin, V'telin u'mavutalin la sharirin v'la kayamin nidrana la nidre v'yesarana la esare ushvuatana La Shavuot.
Kol Nidre Service, V'charamei, V'konamei, V'kinusei, V'chinuyei, Ushvuot. Dinana, Udishtabana, Udeacharimna, Udeasana al-nafshatana, miyom kippurim ze, ad yom kippurim haba aleinu letova. Kulhon icharat nabehon, Kulhon ihon sharan, ihon sharan, Shivikin, Shivitin, Betelin, Umvutalin, Shavuot. Kol Nidre Service, Ushbuei, Mecharamei, Akonamei, Vakinusei, Vachinuye. Indarna udishtabana udacharimna udasarna al nafshatana Yom Kippurim she'avar ad Yom Kippurim zeh haba aleinu latova kulchon nicharat navchon Kulchon Yahon Sharan Shavikin Shavitin Matenin Umavutalin La Sharirin Vala Kayamin Nidrana La Nidre Yesarana La Yesare Ushvuatana La Shavuot.
And there shall be atonement for the whole community of Israel and the stranger dwelling in their midst, indeed, for an entire people that has gone astray. Grant forgiveness then for the transgression of this people as the abundance of your love demands. And as you have always lifted from disfavor these your people from the time of Egypt unto now, as it is told, the fount of mercy said, I grant forgiveness as you seek. Now, page 696, we join together in this blessing when we come to new and sacred occasions. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyimanu v'hiyanu lazman hazeh. So we remain standing as able in body or spirit as we turn to the heart of the Ma'ariv, the evening service, this Kol Nidre Eve, as we have declared our intentions with the Kol Nidre, freed ourselves from that which was holding us back, our intentions to start anew, to bring forth this blank slate to write the next chapter in our lives. With the Kol Nidre, we begin our service, Ma'ariv, page 708. It's customary to turn to face the east, whichever that way is for you in the physical space that you occupy. And even though we are in different physical spaces, as we gather and turn to face the same direction, we are all facing the same one direction as one community. When we worship in public, we know our life is part of a larger life, a wave of an ocean of being, the firsthand experience of that larger life, which is God. Page 708.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Leolam Voed.
You may be seated. Our first bracha after the Baruch Hu is about nature. Ma'ariv Aravim, we turn our attention to the natural world. And when we approach this bracha on Shabbat, we offer gratitude for that which we have seen over the past week, recently, that has inspired us, that has touched us. As we gather this Erev Yom Kippur on this Day of Atonement, a day for Teshuvah, I invite us to set a different intention. An intention about where do we need repair? Where do we need Teshuvah in our connection with the earth, in the natural world around us? You personally, as a community, as a society, how could we set an intention as we acknowledge the beauty and the wonder that surrounds us? Set an intention for Teshuvah, to improve, to repair our relationship with the earth. Page 710.
Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom v'layla Adonai tzevot shemo, el chai v'kayom tamid yimloch aleinu li'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hamari v'haravim.
As we acknowledge Adamah, the earth, we acknowledge Ahava and love. Again, setting our intention this Erev Yom Kippur, for where do we need Teshuvah in our relationships, in our connections, with those closest to us, our acquaintances, those who make up our web of connection. We can set an intention to focus on the work of Teshuvah, to strengthen those ties that bind one another. Where have we fallen short? Where have we let our loved ones down? It is our relationships that help define who we are in the vastness of the earth. So the work that we can do of repair, of strengthening, that is holy work. We set our intention for repair in Ahava on page 712.
Ki hem hayenu ve'yorech yameinu, uvehem nege yomam v'layla, v'ahavtecha lo tasur mimenu li'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
All those relationships add up to one, the unity of all, our deep, deep connections with each other, with the world, all remind us of the unity of all, the oneness of all things, which we recommit to on this Kol Nidre, page 714.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kavod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed, V'nevahavta et Adonai Elohecha, B'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol mo'odecha, V'hayu hadvarim ha'elech asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech ושכבך ובקומך ושרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Continue silently with the biblical selections on the following pages, or just take a few more moments in reflection on that unity, the oneness of all. Adonai Elohechem, amen. We acknowledge as true and trustworthy that there is but one universal God, and that to God's service Israel stands eternally committed. So we recognize in God the power that has enabled us to triumph over defeat, persecution, and oppression. As we examined our need for teshuvah with the earth, our need for teshuvah with our love and our relationships, I invite you now to think about and set an intention for the teshuvah work that you need to do with relation to our communities, to our societies, to not just people, but the people, to all of us together. Where is the work that we need to do? What is the repair that needs to happen? How could we contribute to that repair? How could we contribute to liberation from oppression? When have we fallen short this past year in that work for which we need to atone? And how could we commit to more of that work moving forward? And so we hear echoing the words of our ancient ancestors who celebrated their liberation with the song at the sea on the bottom of page 726.
Umalkuto beratzon kilanu alehem Moshe uMiriam uvnei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yimaru kulam Mi chamocha be'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Norot hilot osefele Malchutecha rohuvanecha v'keyom lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar ki hifadar Adonai et Yaakov ugalo meyad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
With Ashkivenu on the next page, we turn our attention to peace, to shalom. So again, we set our intention for teshuvah, for shalom. When have we fallen short in our pursuit? How could we set an intention to do more work in the year ahead? We seek peace in our ourselves, within ourselves. We seek peace in our close relationships. We seek peace in our families, in our homes, in our communities. We seek peace in our country. We seek peace in our world. Every week, I invite us to think about our visions of peace and then make our commitments to work towards those visions so they become realities. This Kol Nidre, we think about the teshuva that we need to do in order to bring about peace. When have we fallen short in all of these aspects? And how could we grow? And so we speak these words, this prayer of peace with the Hashkivenu, which include those words, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, asking God to spread over us the shelter of peace, giving us strength and support to do this most difficult work of teshuvah and pursuing peace. Page 730.
Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'sholom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha v'chakanenu v'etza mova melfonecha v'hoshienu v'hoshienu l'man shamecha uvetzel kanafecha tastirenu ki el shomrenu umatzilenu ata ki el melech hanun v'rachum ata Ushmor tzeiteinu v'yoheinu l'chaim ul'shalom me'atzoho v'yad olam ha'pores aleinu nisukat shalomecha Baruch atah Adonai ha'pores sukat shalom Aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim.
And I invite you to once again rise as able in body or spirit as we turn to page 734, the bottom half of the page, as we declare this day of Yom Kippur.
Kiva Yom Hazeh לכפר עליכם, לטהר אתכם מכל ותיתכם, לפני אדוני תטהרו.
Chatzi Kadesh, page 736.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמד דברי חירותי, וימליך מלכותי. V'chaychon uvyumechon v'chayed kol beit Yisrael v'galo v'zman kari v'yamaru amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'olam olal me'almaya yitabarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemid kodesha barichu La'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata ta'amiran bi'alama v'yimaru amen.
Talk to God by Stephen Dunn. Thank him for your little house on the periphery, its splendid view of the wildflowers in summer, and the nervous, forked prints of deer in that same field after a snowstorm. Thank him even for the monotony that drives us to make and destroy and dissect what otherwise would be merely the lush, unnamed world. Ease into your misgivings. Ask him if, in his weakness, he was ever responsible for a pettiness, some weather, say, brought in to show who's boss, when no one seemed sufficiently moved by a sunset or the shape of an egg. Ask him if, when he gives us the desire, he had underestimated its power. And when, if ever, did he realize love is not inspired by obedience? Be respectful when you confess to him. You began to redefine heaven as you discovered certain pleasures. And sympathize with how sad it is that awe has been replaced by small enthusiasms. And you're aware things just aren't the same these days. That you wish for him a few evenings surrounded by the old, stunned silence. Maybe it will be possible then to ask, why this sorry state of affairs? Why, after so much hatefulness done in his name, no list of corrections nailed to some rectory door? Remember to thank him for the silkworm, apples in season, photosynthesis, the northern lights, and be sincere. But let it be known you're willing to suffer only in proportion to your errors, and not one unfair moment more. Insist on this as if it could be granted, not one moment more. We have our first opportunity on this most sacred of days to speak to God, to share the words and thoughts and confessions that are in our hearts. What do you need to say? What do you need to share in this moment? What do you have on your mind that you want to bring to this time? We all come here for the same reason, to join together to do this work of repair, teshuvah, of renewal. Yet our own individual stories provide the difference, and we bring our whole selves to this moment. So as we turn to the Amidah on this Erev Yom Kippur, use this opportunity to speak what you need to speak, share what you need to share, confess what you need to confess, and make the commitments that need to be made. The Amidah will begin together on page 740 with the opening Kavanah, Adonai Sefatai Tiftach, and afterwards we'll continue in silence. The Amidah in the Machzor continues through page 774, but as always, feel free to use the words on the page or just use the prayer that is in your own heart. This Kol Nidre. This is your time. Use it in a way that is meaningful to you. Page 740.
Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid, Yagid, Tehilatecha.
still in the middle of your silent prayer, please continue. Take all the time and the space that you need. And the words that we offer, the words of our heart and soul that we speak, that we share at this time, may they be acceptable and received on this most holy of days. Page 774.
Yehi ulerot sonim refi vegyon libi. Yehi ulerot sonim refi vegyon libi lefanecha. Yehi ulerot sonim refi vegyon libi. Yehi ulerot sonim refi vegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri begoali, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri begoali. Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you, oh my rock and my redeemer.
Let's all read together in the English on page 773. Master of the world, I now forgive all who have angered me or sinned against me, whether through my body, my possessions, my honor, or anything that is mine, whether by accident or by intention, knowingly or unknowingly, word or deed. Let no one be punished on my account. My God and the God of my ancestors, may it be your will that I sin no more, and that I not again do what is evil in your sight. In your great mercy, wipe away my sins without requiring my suffering. May the words of my mouth and the longing of my heart be acceptable to you, the listener, my rock and my redeemer. Amen, amen, amen. Because the Torah is not just concerned with rituals and spiritual practice, we also have rules around civic and communal life. So our sacred text offers us rules about war. One of the rules of war that you might have heard about is the prohibition of cutting down fruit trees when you besiege a city. And it's a prohibition in Deuteronomy that both lays a textual foundation for environmental ethics and sustainability, but it's also one that we see continually violated today. But another exchange between the leaders and soldiers is described in Deuteronomy 20, verse 1 through 9, just prior to the rule about trees. And the text describes this. When you take the field against your enemies and you see horses and chariots, forces larger than yours, have no fear. For Adonai, your God, is with you, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Before you do battle, the priest will come forward and address the troops. The priest shall say to them, listen, O Israel, you are about to join battle with your enemy. Let not your courage falter. Do not be in fear or in panic or in dread of them, for it is Adonai your God who marches with you to do battle with you against your enemy, to bring you victory. But then the priests address those assembled with some questions. And the text reads, then the officials shall address the troops as followed. Is there anyone who has built a new house but not dedicated it? Let them go back to their home, lest they die in battle and another dedicate it. Is there anyone who has planted a vineyard but never harvested it? Let them go back to their home, lest they die in battle and another harvest it. Is there anyone who has paid the bride price for a wife but has not yet married her? Let them go back to their home, lest they die in battle and another marry her. And then the officials ask one more question, and they go on addressing the troops, and they say, is there anyone afraid and disheartened? Let them go back to their home, lest the courage of their comrades flag like theirs. When the officials have finished addressing the troops, the army commanders shall then assume command. That's the text in Deuteronomy, the description. You can imagine the scene. It's almost like one of those movies, where the troops are assembled and they get up to give a rousing speech before the big battle. And in this case, the priest is asking questions. Has someone built a new house? Has someone planted a new vineyard? Is somebody engaged to be married? And finally, is there anyone afraid? Is there anyone afraid? The first questions are practical ones, right? Someone who has built a house, planted a vineyard, should have the opportunity to live in their house and enjoy the bounty before going off to war. And one who is engaged but not yet married should have the opportunity to spend time with their partner before heading into battle. But this last one, while it could also be understood as practical in a sense, as the text says, that one's fear might impact others, it reveals, I think, a deeper truth about Torah. And that the Torah is concerned with our mental well-being. The Torah is concerned with our mental well-being. Being afraid in a situation is enough to warrant removing oneself from that situation. How you are in the moment matters. Your mental health matters. Your state of mind matters. And I think it's safe to say that really none of us is in a really good state of mind these days. We've all been dealing with illness and loss, and not just loss of life, loss of livelihood, jobs, social connections, habits, hobbies, routines, pleasures. We're dealing with fear. A virus is sweeping our country. We're told the way to be safe is to keep our distance, to be suspect of everyone, to don't touch, to be vigilant. An invisible enemy that has killed hundreds of thousands and sickened many more. We live each day wondering, is this the day that I get exposed? Is that stuffy nose allergies or the virus? Will I be one of those breakthrough cases? We're also dealing with anger. Anger because we were supposed to be done with this by now. Last year, we prayed for a vaccine to deliver us from our fear, and our prayers were answered, only to have many people refuse to get it. Variants are spreading, and those who have chosen to get the vaccine are angry with those who chose not to, and those who chose not to are angry at those who are seeking mandates, and it goes on and on. And we are exhausted. It has been a long year and a half of living with the virus, and I will admit I was a bit disheartened going into the high holidays this year. struggled with motivation. Last year, when we knew we would need to be separate and do things differently, it was a challenge, but it was also an element of fun and creativity. It was new, so we made videos, we moved Yisker to the cemetery and Ne'ilah to the parking lot. We blew shofar from a boat in Bud Inlet. But then we could not imagine that we would be back here again, that it was an anomaly, and that we thought we would be back to normal in a year's time. But it's not to be so. And this year, it felt like there were even more factors to juggle. Do we meet indoors but limit attendance? How do we choose who gets to come in and who must stay out? Do we limit to the vaccinated only? And if we do, are we okay excluding families and children? Do we hold multiple services? There is no good answer. Nothing that will make somebody, everything will make somebody unhappy. And that fact alone makes this such a difficult year. Fear and anger and exhaustion. We thought we knew how this would end. Now we have no idea how it will end. Is there anyone afraid and disheartened? Let them go back to their homes, as the priests in the Torah. We all want to go back to how things were. The Talmud teaches in its commentary that those litany of questions that are asked by the priests prior to battle are grouped in such a way so as to protect those who are fearful and faint-hearted. The idea being, the rabbis teach, that because the question of the new house and the new vineyard and the new marriage and being fearful are all asked together, then one who leaves out of fear is protected from having their fear known. Like when they leave, one might assume that they're leaving because they have a new house or a new marriage. Therefore, they don't have the shame, the Talmud understands it to be, of admitting their fear. On one hand, it's a beautiful sentiment of concern, much like how in our Yom Kippur liturgy, we all recite the Ashamnu and the Al-Chet, the two litanies of sins, all together in the plural. By doing so, we affirm that collectively, everyone has done everything, right? And by all of us reciting it, we give cover to what we have actually done as we speak the words, so as to protect from any embarrassment or shame, or at least having to answer and share when one does not want to. And yet, at the same time, we shouldn't have to hide our emotions behind a false cover, a false smile, or a pat answer. We are not okay. And it is okay to not be okay. And it is okay to let someone know that you are not okay. If we cannot be real with each other, then we are unable to access what it is we truly need right now, what will allow us to transcend and work through this challenging time and these challenging emotions, and that is genuine human interaction and trust. Time and time again in our Torah, we hear the words, Hineni, here I am, a response to a call. God calls Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, a trial, a test, and Abraham responds, Hineni. Jacob calls to Joseph to go out to see his brothers, a journey that will set in motion a chain of events that leads first to power and then to slavery, the story of a people, and Joseph says, Hineni. God calls to Jacob in a dream to bless him and confirm that he is the inheritor of the covenant and will be the head of a new family and people, and that he should not be wary of going down to Egypt. And Jacob responds, Hineni. And God calls to Moses at the burning bush, revealing his true identity and charging him with starting a movement and liberating a people. And Moses replies, Hineni. Hineni, here I am. It is a word our rabbis teach us is a word of anava, of humility, and zerizut, of eagerness. It is a word that means I'm ready for what is next, spoken by those who present themselves for a grand mission. It is a word that we can echo as we stand here on this day to say, Hineni, I am ready for what the year brings, for the work of teshuvah I am required to do, for the acts of tikkun olam, repair of the world that I must commit to. But that is not the only hineni that is expected of us now, that what is needed from us now. What we need is not the hineni that responds to a higher power, the hineni of, here I am, I'm ready, willing, and able. What is my mission? What is my calling? What we need now, what we truly need now, right now, is the hineni that is not the response to a higher power, but is a response to each other, a response to a call for help. The hineni that says, not here I am, but I'm here. I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here for you in your suffering. I'm here for you in your fear and your anger and your exhaustion. I'm here. This fall, I've decided to do a unit of CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education, at Providence St. Peter Hospital. This means I'll essentially be a chaplaincy intern for the next several months, having regular hours at the hospital, as well as learning more about pastoral work with a cohort of other learners. CPE is often done by seminarians during their schooling, or clergy earlier in their career, or folks looking to make a career shift into full-time chaplaincy. None of those really describe my interest. I'm doing it to learn and to grow in my role as a rabbi, and I've kind of wanted to do it for a long time, and because of certain things falling into place, now is a good time. But the other thing that motivated me to do this now is the coronavirus, is the pandemic, it's COVID. We are hearing about how hospitals are full and stretched thin because of the pandemic. If perhaps I could play a small part to help alleviate the stress and the strain, if just from an emotional and spiritual sense, that's something I'm feeling called to do right now, because COVID is putting a strain on healthcare, not just because of the virus itself, but because of everything else. All those normal illnesses and causes for hospitalization are all happening at the same time. Our system is stressed. And also, as you may know, Johanna was in the hospital earlier this summer for a bacterial infection unrelated to COVID that caused fluid buildup around her lungs. She required surgery and chest tubes to remove the fluid while she was fighting an infection caused by an unknown bacteria. And one of the hardest parts of this ordeal is that because of COVID, visitation was restricted, and I could not be with her in the hospital. She was all alone. Every single patient in that hospital was alone. You know, it's only when the visitation is restricted that you realize how important, how crucial it is to have family and friends and visitors in the hospital. One, for the emotional support, having someone by your side during a difficult time lifts us up and aids our healing. We need to be near people who love and care for us when we're going through something difficult, like illness. And on a more practical level, perhaps, having other people nearby provides the support for communicating with healthcare providers, someone else to absorb information or ask questions and convey concerns, and sometimes to inform the rotating providers with information about the patient, which can sometimes be impossible for the patient to do themselves. I had this realization this summer while going through this. It is astounding to think that aside from all of those who died because of COVID, how many more died? For one, because they did not have adequate health care in a stress system, and especially because they did not have that practical and emotional support, that companionship that is so necessary to our healing. COVID, we must remember, impacts so much more than those who are sick with that particular virus. Because of COVID's impact this past summer, we were denied that desperately needed opportunity to say, Hineni, I'm here for you. I am present. I am by your side. And it is something that when it is denied, we realize how much we need it. The importance of showing up for one another during a time of suffering cannot be overstated. We need others to lift ourselves up and to hold us during difficult times. There's a beautiful story in the Talmud about this, about Rabbi Yochanan and his student, Rabbi Chia bar Abba, fell ill. So Rabbi Yochanan went to visit him and he said to him, do you desire to be ill and afflicted? And Rabbi Chia said, understandably, no, I neither welcome this suffering or any reward that might come from it. So Rabbi Yochanan said to him, give me your hand. Rabbi Chia bar Abba gave him his hand, and Rabbi Yochanan stood him up and restored him to health. Similarly, the Talmud goes on, Rabbi Yochanan fell ill. So Rabbi Hanina entered to visit him and said to him, do you accept this suffering and illness? And Rabbi Yochanan said, no, I do not. So Rabbi Hanina said to him, give me your hand. And he gave him his hand, and Rabbi Hanina stood him up and restored him to health. Now the Talmud, the Gemara asks maybe an obvious question. It says, why did Rabbi Yochanan wait for Rabbi Hanina to restore him to health? If he was able to restore his student, why couldn't he just heal himself? And the Talmud answers, a prisoner cannot free themselves from prison. A prisoner cannot free themselves from prison, but relies on others to release them. We don't need to have the experience of the hospital to benefit from this idea. We are all caregivers and care receivers. And just because we have been caregivers doesn't mean that we can take care of ourselves. Indeed, the Talmud says the opposite. We cannot care for ourselves. We need others to care for us. Rabbi Yochanan in the story was there to say Hineni to his student, Rabbi Chia, and thus aid in his healing. But when Rabbi Yochanan was ill, he needed another to come and say Hineni for him. At this time of fear and anger and exhaustion, we need each other more than ever. To show up and say Hineni for one another, so we could free each other from this prison. I don't feel I could stand here tonight and tell you not to fear, and tell you not to feel angry, or not to feel exhausted, or what Judaism says about fear and anger and exhaustion and how to engage with these. No, I don't think I could say that. Indeed, I would say perhaps to an extent, fear is good because it allows us to be safe, to protect ourselves and each other, to take risks and do hard things. Anger is good because when it is well placed, it motivates us towards positive change, to identify problems and energetically work towards solutions. Exhaustion is good because it reminds us of our need to rest. And with rest and stepping back comes perspective and the ability to see things in new ways, and self-care and the renewal to keep going. So I don't want to tell you to not fear or feel anger or exhaustion. I can't. We can't automatically take it away. It is where we are right now. But what we can do, like the Torah instructs us in that passage about war, what we can do is that we can share it. We can express it. And to those who express it, we can accept it and affirm it and support each other through this challenging time that we are all going through. We can live into compassion for ourselves, for our struggles, and compassion for others because our struggles are mutual. We can show up for each other. So I invite you to think, one, have you taken it easy on yourself, taking the time that you need? And two, have you shown up for another? And as we begin again to ask, how could I show up for others this year? The text, the phone call, the Zoom gathering, they are needed more than ever. Are you prepared to turn to another and say, Hineni, I'm here? It's not easy. This showing up for each other requires trust. And one of the ironies of this time is that we are in a place as a society where we trust each other less. We trusted everyone to get the vaccine and to bring us out of this pandemic, and yet it hasn't happened. On the national level, we're seeing differences beyond policy, but a deeper distrust in the other side's loyalties and interests. And it's also interesting to think that so much of the arguments around vaccination and freedom are rooted in trust or lack of trust. I want to make choices because I don't trust the CDC, or I don't trust the government, or I don't trust the news media, or I don't trust pharmaceutical companies. But it is only through trust, which in Hebrew is bitachon, that we will be able to make it through this together. And trust is built on compassion. Rabbi Bachya ibn Pakuda, in his 11th century text, Duties of the Heart, teaches when somebody knows that their friend has compassion and empathy for them, they will trust in this and be at peace with regard to troubling them with all of their matters. Trusting in ourselves and others to be there for us, to support us, to love us. This is how we build relationships, and this is how we make it through. This is how we are able to live with the fear and the anger and the exhaustion, whatever else we are feeling at this time. This is how we will make a better future. Trust is reciprocal. So if we offer it, we will hopefully receive it back. So we must say, Hineni, I'm here, and build that trust. In the story that we read last week at Rosh Hashanah, which I alluded to earlier, God calls Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. And Abraham answers, Hineni, here I am, I'm ready. He also answers Hineni when the angel calls out from heaven to stop him from doing it. But again, those are not the Hinenis right now that we need. Also in the story, as Abraham and Isaac are walking up the mountain, Isaac notices that they have the wood, the knife, and the fire, all of the elements of the sacrificial offering except for the sacrifice itself. You can imagine what Isaac was thinking at that moment. And so he turns to his father and he asks him why. And when he calls out to him, Abraham, my father, Abraham says, Hineni. Hineni. This is the Hineni that we need right now. The Hineni that is not an answer to an outside power, but the Hineni that is an answer to one closest to our heart. The Hineni that says, I know you are scared. I know you are anxious. I know you don't know what is happening, but I see you. I am with you. I am here. As Rachel Naomi Remen writes, understanding the suffering is beyond me. Understanding the healing is too. But in this moment, I am here. Use me. In this moment, Hineni. I say this to you as your rabbi. Hineni, I'm here. And let us turn to those we love, those we know, even those we don't know, and say, Hineni, I'm here. And tomorrow, when we read the words of the prophet Isaiah, we read how if we care for one another, if we heed the call of those in need, if we answer Hineni to each other, then God will answer Hineni, I'm here, to us. It is okay to have fear, anger, and exhaustion. We all feel it. I feel it. And I don't think it's going away anytime soon. But if we show up for each other, then I do know that we will make it through. In this moment, you might not know what it is like to feel strong, to feel hopeful, to feel calm, to feel at peace. But what you can know and what you must know is what it feels like to not be alone. Because you are not alone. We are not alone. And at the heart of it all, that is what matters most. Hineni, I'm here for you. Hinenu, we are here together. Together. And with that, we can move forward. Turn back to our service as we turn to page 782. These words, these prayers unique to this time, beginning with Ya'aleh. Ya'aleh, may our prayers at evening rise at evening hour. May our cry come forth from the dawn, and may our song be pleasing through the day. Page 782.
Ya'aleh tachanunenu me'erev v'yavo shevatenu miboker v'yerah ranunenu had arev Ya'aleh kolenu me'erev V'yavo tzidkatenu mi boker v'yerah pidyonenu had arev Ya'aleh inuyenu me'erev v'yavo salehikatenu mi boker v'yerah nakatenu had arev Ya'aleh minuseinu me'erev v'yavo lamano mi boker v'yerah Chipurenu had arev Ya'aleh yishenu me'erev v'yavo taharenu mi boker v'yerah chinunenu had arev Ya'aleh zichronenu me'erev v'yavo v'yudenu mi boker v'yerah hedratenu ad arev Ya'aleh dafekenu mi berev v'yavo gialenu mi boker v'yerah v'kashatenu had arev Ya'aleh enkatenu me'erev v'yavo elecha mi mi bocher v'yirah Eleinu ad arev.
Adonai, Adonai, God loving and gracious, patient and abundant in kindness and truth, keeping kindness for 1,000 ages, forgiving sin and rebellion and transgression, making pure. I invite you to rise as able in body or spirit on the top of page 812 for the 13 attributes of the divine, and as we are crafted in the divine image, the 13 attributes of mercy that we aspire to as well.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, Frav Chesed v'Yemet, Nozeh Chesed Yalafim, Nozeh Avon v'Fesha, V'Chata v'Nakei. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, Frav Chesed v'Yemet, Nozeh Chesed Yalafim, Nozeh Avon v'Fesha, V'Chata v'Nakei. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, Frav Chesed v'Emet, Nozeh Chesed Yalafim, Nozeh Avon v'Fesha, V'Chata v'Nakei.
Hear our voice, Eternal One, page 814, Shema Kolenu.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem, Aleinu, Aleinu, v'kabel barachamim, barachamim uvratzon, on, et afilateinu. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, V'nashuva, V'nashuva, Chodesh, Chodesh, Yamenu kekedim. Ashivenu, Ashivenu, Adonai Elecha, V'nashuva, V'nashuva, Chodesh, Chodesh, Yamenu kekedim.
May be seated. Our God, our ancients, God, do not forsake us and do not turn away, and do not cause us shame and do not nullify your covenant with us, but bring us nearer to your Torah. Teach us your mitzvot, instruct us in your ways, incline our hearts to treat your name with awe, and open up our inner nature to your love. And bring us back to you in truth with whole and peaceful heart. And for the sake of your great name, be merciful and grant forgiveness for our wrongs, as it is written in your prophet's words. For the sake of your great name, Eternal One, forgive my wrongdoing, for I have done much wrong. Page 816.
Eloheinu v'Eloheinu imotenu, slach lanu mechalanu, kapelanu. Ki anu amecha v'yata Eloheinu, anu panecha v'yata avinu, anu avadecha v'yata Adoneinu, anu kahaleka v'yata kelkeinu, anu nachlateka v'yata goraleinu, anu somneka v'yata roveinu, anu karmeka v'yata notreinu, anu fohulateka v'yata yotreinu, anu rayateka v'yata dodeinu, anu sukulateka v'yata kroveinu, anu amecha v'yata malkeinu, anu mamireka v'yata mamireinu.
We are strong-willed and stubborn, but you are merciful and gracious. We are stiff-necked, but you are slow to anger. We are full of error, but you are full of mercy. Our days are like a passing shadow, but you are one whose years shall never end. Our God, our ancient God, may our prayer come before you. Hide not from our supplication, for we are not so insolent and stubborn as to say, here in your presence, Holy One, God of our ancestors, we are righteous, and we have not sinned, for we indeed have sinned. Again, we rise as able, embody our spirit for the Vidui on page 820. The litany of transgressions we recite again all together in the plural, providing support for one another, for whatever it is we bring into this moment. Customary for some to tap our heart as a physical reminder of what weighs on us, what challenges us. Page 820, Vidui.
Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazamnu, Dibarnu Dofi, Hevinu, Behirshanu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tafalnu Shakir, Yaznura, Kizavnu, Laznu, Mararnu, Niyaznu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu Oref, Rashanu, Shichatnu, Ta'avnu, Ta'inu, Titanu,
You know the secrets of the universe, the most hidden recesses of all that lives. You search the chamber of our inner being. You examine the conscience and the heart. There is nothing hidden from you. Nothing is concealed before your eyes. So let it be your will, Eternal One, our God and God of our ancestors, that you may grant forgiveness to us for all of our sins, and be merciful to us for all of our transgressions, and let us atone for all we have done wrong. Page 828. The Al-Khait, once again joining together as one community in this confessional, rising up, supporting one another in our own work of teshuvah, of repentance and repair. So we will read through this together, beginning in the Hebrew and then ending each line in the English. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, in the closing of the heart. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, without knowing what we do. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, whether open or concealed. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, knowingly and by deceit. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, through the prompting of the heart. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, through the influence of others. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, whether by intention or mistake. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, by the hand of violence. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, through our foolishness of speech. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, through an evil inclination.
Kulam Elohas lihot, slach lanu mehalanu, kaper lanu.
Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, in the palming of a bribe. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, by expressions of contempt. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, through misuse of food and drink. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, by our avarice and greed. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, through offensive gaze. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, through a condescending glance.
Kulam Elohas lihot, slach lanu mehalanu, kaper lanu.
Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, by our quickness to oppose. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, by deception of a friend. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, by unwillingness to change. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, by our running to embrace an evil act. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, by our groundless hatred. Al-Khait shechatanu lefanecha, in the giving of false pledge.
Kulam Elohai slihot, slach lanu mehalanu, slach lanu mehalanu, kaper lanu.
Do not forsake us, you who have created us. Do not cast us away, you have brought us into being. Do not abandon us, you who fashioned us. And do not cause us the destruction that our wrongs demand. Your people, your inheritance, those who hunger for your good, those thirsty for your love, those who yearn for your redemption, they shall recognize and know that to you alone, the fount of life, our God, belongs all mercy, all the forgiveness in the world. We remain standing as able as we turn back in our machzors to page 452 for the Avinu Malkeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha, Avinu Malkeinu Ein Lanu Melelato. Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Imanu Laman Shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu Kadesh Aleinu Shana Tova.
Continue silently through the next page.
Avinu Malkeinu, Aneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Aneinu Vaneinu, Yen Banu Masi. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, L'Hosheinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Aneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Aneinu Vaneinu, Yen Banu Masi. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed, L'Hosheinu.
Page 1202, the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeha, Adon hakol, Late gedula l'yotze b'reishi, Shenatan lanu Torah emet, V'kaye olam natav v'tokeinu, Manachnu korim, U'mishtach avimu modim, Lifnei melech malkei hamelakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power, and then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind, and then all people will be gentle, and then all people will be strong, and then no person will be subject to another's will, and then all will be rich and free and varied, and then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many, and then all will share equally in the earth's abundance, and then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young, and then all will cherish life's creatures, and then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth, and then everywhere will be called Eden once again. 1206.
Kakator b'Torah techa Adonayim lo klelom va'ed v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yikyeh Adonai echad Shamo, O Shamo, O Shamo Echad.
In reciting the Mourner's Kaddish, we affirm our awareness of holiness in our world. So much of our experience of divine goodness, grace, and love has come to us through those whose lives have touched our own. We invoke the transcendent power of love and caring as we sanctify God's name, as we take this moment for memory, remembering those loved ones who are no longer with us in body, but whose spirit continue to animate our lives. As we turn to the Kaddish, this is our opportunity. We will, as we lead into the technology, it has been our practice to unmute everyone for the Mourner's Kaddish. This way, those who are reciting the Kaddish can hear the support of other community members in reciting the communal response. So we make do with whatever, with what happens. We know it's not perfect, but at least we can. So I invite all those who are in mourning, who are observing a yahrzeit, or its custom it is to rise as able, body or spirit, as we turn to Ishat Tov, the Mourner's Kaddish, page 6. Makes peace above, make peace for us, for all Israel, for all who dwell on earth. May all those who mourn find comfort and strength at this time, and may the memory of our loved ones be for a blessing always. Amen, amen. So at this time, as we gather again on Yom Kippur, on Kol Nidre, it's so beautiful to be able to gather together as one community. We know we've had to figure out different ways of doing that. We're blessed with at least having the cantor chord, our tech crew here in the sanctuary, but it's beautiful to see, look across the screen and see everyone. So as we celebrate and mark this holiday, we also celebrate and note our community. So I'm delighted to invite Allison Brooks, our board president, to come and share some words with us on this Yom Kippur. And again, it's not the easiest time to be president, Allison, and you've just done a tremendous job for all of us. So thank you.
Hello, everyone in the virtual world, and those who are actually here, who are waving to me now. Thanks for waving. So first of all, I just want to thank the TBH community for allowing me to be the board president, even during this difficult time. And with that said, I know that in many ways I've let you down. So let's start with way number one, and that would be my white hot temper. So I would just like to acknowledge, for those of you that have been on the receiving end of my white hot temper, like a demon flying out of hell, I want to say I am sorry I have let you down. And some of you have seen it, right? Yeah, you've watched. So I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that I am highly opinionated, and I've spent weeks, Evan can appreciate that, since I have spent weeks at training at the Dispute Resolution Center. Yes, he's nodding as he knows, learning how to listen and not be so opinionated. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It worked great for me in my job. And I know some of you have been let down because I get irritable quickly. Usually I deal in 25 words or less, and when it goes on with too many adverbs or adjectives, I start getting irritated and wonder why we can't stick to the nouns and the verbs. So I'm sorry if I let you down that way, but if I go on with all my faults, we could be here for hours. So let me just say, I am sorry I have let you down. Let me start by saying, on Rosh Hashanah, I had received an email from somebody who was interested in being on one of our task force. And I realized that because we're in this situation, we don't have our lists. And so this person emailed me, and I emailed the person back very excited that they wanted to be on one of the task force. And I copied other people that I thought would be interested. And in return, I received an email concerned that I had emailed on Rosh Hashanah. A little bit of irony there, but okay. So the person was kind of actually very angry that I had sent an email on Rosh Hashanah. I thought I was just responding to a member. So let me also acknowledge the fact that I am not a very good pious Jew. In fact, I am so bad that for years the rabbi made fun of me for never coming to Friday services. And he's right. I rarely came to Friday services because by the end of the week, in the job that I have, I was ready to be folded up and put away. For those of you that don't know what I do during the week, it's my job to balance project delivery with the protection of tribal sacred sites, tribal cultural sites, archaeological sites, and historic buildings. And every day I deal with a lot of racism. Even today, the leader of our national organization dismissed the tribes as partners, and it was so bad that my counterpart in Arizona were texting each other saying, at what point are we going to have to call this guy out to be a racist, as a racist to his face? And so it's really not an excuse, but by Friday, I'm a little exhausted with humanity and just a little exhausted in general. And you're right, I am not a very good pious Jew. And that includes emailing on Rosh Hashanah. I'm also not a very good Reconstructionist Jew. I will admit that. I've never been able to connect very well to the liturgy that we have. And I don't know why. So with all of that, you may be asking yourself, why are you here? Why are you on the board? Why are you our president? For goodness sakes. Because this is the most spiritual and socially active congregation I have ever seen in anywhere I have ever lived. And I will give our rabbi kudos. To me, spirituality in Judaism has nothing to do with the liturgy given to me by the Reconstructionists. It has to do with actions. And the social justice and the social warrior that I see in our rabbi, to me, is what expresses Judaism to the max. And the congregation itself is so incredibly active in everything in Olympia. First of all the jobs that you do. I mean, we have people in state and local government that work every day to make our community a better place. We have healthcare professionals that work every day to make this a better place and who are working under the horrible conditions of COVID. We have educators and teachers. I mean, everybody we have the attorneys who are always working on social justice issues. I mean, immediately Harriet springs to mind. It's such an incredible community of social justice warriors. And you are all on these task forces and you work so hard and you get results. I keep talking about the immigrant and sanctuary task force because they amaze me. They were not going to let a woman be taken from the United States back over the border to be killed. They just were not going to do it. And they were going to give her sanctuary in TBH. And it was going to happen. And it happened and it worked. I think about the Blintza-Palooza committee. For 30 years, Russ Lindman and Linda Bloomstein and Ellie Halpern and Karen Farber have been raising money for nonprofits across Olympia. And even last year, Russ Lemon goes, well, we should still do it. We'll have a mini palooza. And he still, with the crew, raised thousands of dollars for Interfaith Works and their homeless initiatives. All the task force, there's arts and culture, and there's the book group. And it's just this community, not of people who look at each other and say, how are you dressed? Or what kind of car do you drive? But it's a community of social justice warriors. And if that's not Judaism, I don't know what is. So I apologize if I'm not the most pious person in the world. I apologize for not attending Friday night services as much as I should. Am I getting the side eye over there? No, attending services as much as I should be. But I really do. I really do appreciate you allowing me to be the board president, regardless of all of it, because I can't think of a more wonderful group of people to be a part of. And actually, I also have to acknowledge Barak Gale and Barb Gross and the whole crew that's working on solar panels. And then we have the crew that works on recycling and the green team. I mean, I really should have written out a list because I just find the whole thing absolutely remarkable. Just so remarkable of all of you. And when you sit there, and I know at Yom Kippur, you read through all your faults. Let me tell you, you guys really don't have any faults. If the whole world acted like all of you did, it would be a great place to live. So thank you for all that you do. And thank you for letting me be your board president. And I'll try to work on that white hot temper. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Beautiful. And thank you. I don't think I didn't want you to come. Well, I just know that you're going to come to Friday night services. You'll just heckle me during my Devar Torah. So that's why it's no, thank you for everything. And really so much is due to your leadership as well in bringing us through this challenging and difficult time. So thank you. And thank you to everybody for all of your support. We will conclude in a moment. I'll share just briefly our schedule again for tomorrow, just so you're mindful about what is what. It is, as always, a full day, and I hope that you make Yom Kippur the day you need it to be for you, to connect with us on Zoom or live stream when you need to, finding your own time as you need to, but we're here. Get our morning service tomorrow morning begins at 10 a.m., which will be on Zoom and also live streamed to Facebook. Also at 10, we have a youth program that we asked for advanced registration on. That will be happening here at the TBH courtyard outside. At 1:30 p.m. Is our Yizkor service, our memorial service, which we will be holding in person at the TBH cemetery. We had asked that you register to attend in person, as we're mindful of attendance numbers, but that service will also be on Zoom. The Mincha service, our afternoon service, is at 4 o'clock. That will be exclusively on Zoom. That will be a kind of more of a alternative exploration of Mincha and the story of Jonah and the big fish. And then at 6:45 will be Ne'ilah, our concluding service, Yom Kippur, which will be held in person in our brand new parking lot. Again, we had asked for a registration for those, advanced registration for those coming in person. That will also be on Zoom and live streamed on Facebook. As a reminder, every Zoom link is the same for each of our opportunities. If you are attending one of our in-person gatherings, again, we ask that that be limited to those who are fully vaccinated against COVID and that you wear masks and distance. How to Love the Burning World by Deborah Miranda. Tell yourself it's like sitting at the bedside of your mother, scorched with cancer, her hand already almost ash in yours. Her words already smoke so thick it obscures your vision of a future without her. You want to look away. You want to find a cave, drink yourself into oblivion, sleep while ugliness smolders. Admit it. You want someone else to tend the death watch. Instead, moisten her tongue with a sponge. Bathe dry skin with lavender cream. Braid her hair with tender, trembling fingers. Take care not to pull on knots. Stay in the room. Let the last thing she hears be your voice, thanking her for every single time she didn't kill you, for the eons she waited before you realized her brilliance, her wisdom, all the days she bit her tongue, let you think you had the last bloody word. You aren't required to love the flames, but love the burning world. You owe her that. Fear is no dishonor. Her fever so hot, even metaphors melt at a touch. Memorize her. Praise each scar on her body, beauty ablaze. Pray for a clean ending, a phoenix purification. Pray for mercy. Pray for the only thing that could save us now. Every lesson she ever taught us about the sweet, bitter grace of transformation. The sweet, bitter grace of transformation. That is what we lean into on this day. Bitter because we have to face difficult truths about ourselves, about our world. And sweet because we have that gift of being able to repair and to start over, to begin anew, to ask for forgiveness and to grant it. It is a bittersweet day, a day of difficulty and a day of joy, a day of looking backward and moving forward, and a day to pause and to check in and to just be where we are. My friends, I know that as we've all assembled to do our work of teshuvah, of repentance, I know that I too, as I stand before you, have failed. This is, and I counted, and I almost couldn't believe it, the 20th high holidays that we have spent together. And I know each time, each year, I try and maybe do a little better. But every year I know that there are ways I've fallen short. I know that this year I didn't reply to your email, or I was late in doing so. I didn't reply to your text. I didn't reply to your Facebook message. I didn't reply to your Instagram direct message. I couldn't remember which way you contacted me. I know that my disorganization was sometimes frustrating to you and held you up. I know that this past year that I was not as fully present as you needed me to be. I know there were times that I seemed distracted when we spoke. And there were those times during the Zoom meeting that I was doing other things on my computer. I know that I gave you wrong information, caused you to miss something. I didn't thank you or acknowledge your contribution. I know that there were times that you wanted my attention and I neglected to give it to you. You might not have asked, but I should have anticipated. I know there were times when I didn't intervene when I should have. There were times when I knew I could or should have been a better facilitator. There were those times that you needed to nudge me to get me to do something that I had said I would do. There were those times that I didn't let you know in advance that I was going to speak about something difficult and it made you uncomfortable. I know there were times when I was too strong with you at that meeting, or I cut you off, or I seemed to attack. That wasn't my intention, but I'm sorry. And I know there were times that I didn't support you or wasn't vocal enough on an issue that you cared about, that you really needed me to speak up on. And I know that there were times that you felt I didn't care or wasn't concerned. Please know that I am, and I do. I just know I need to be better about showing it. For all these and more, I'm sorry. I will commit to do better as your rabbi in the coming year. My friends, thank you again for being real, for being open, for being vulnerable, for being together, for working on building those ties that have allowed us to sustain ourselves through this pandemic, that will continue to sustain us, that will pay dividends even when we are back together in person. To all of you, to you, to your family, to your community, to your friends. May again this be a year of goodness, of sweetness, of growth, of inspiration, of connection, of healing, of health, and of hineni, of showing up for each other. Gamar Chatima Tova. May each and every one of you be sealed in the book of life for goodness and for peace. And we'll conclude with another offering from our wonderful choir, again, navigating these times. Eli, Eli. that it? Recut. All right. Safe come. Oops. Hi, everybody. Whoa.
Hello.
David, hey. I got to get away from the mics in the sanctuary because it's getting a little.
Good night, everybody.
What?
Hey, I guess that's everything, huh? See you all in the morning.
Say hello to Caleb, our amazing tech crew back here.
Thank you, tech crew. You guys did wonderful.
Who, me?
Yeah. Here.
Don't forget to save the chat. Just save the chat.
Thank you.
I'm leaving.
Whoa. Hey, everybody.
Yes, sir.
We lost you there for a while.
Yes.
It was scary, all that darkness.
Yeah.
Hi, Tish and everyone.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Bob,
Hi.
Susan, Nancy, and Gary, and Frank,
Hey,
and
Vanessa.
Leslie. Oh, hi, Rabbi. Leslie and her mom, and the other Leslie.
Allison, you were awesome. Just awesome.
Oh,